Yeah. visible on her end? See, I don't even have the countdown. Mm-mm. I'm still trying to figure out how to
Okay. And hopefully, we are live. Hopefully, we are live. Hopefully, we are. And I've got a big echo, and I don't understand why. And I've got a big echo.
I'm still showing
and I don't
offline.
understand why. And I've got a big echo.
I'm still showing
and I don't
offline.
understand why. And I've got a big echo.
I'm still showing
Oh,
offline.
okay, hang on, I know why. Hang on a second. Oh, okay, hang on, I know why. Hang on a second. Okay, are you still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Are you still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay, I've got an echo because I'm showing it on my side. An echo because I'm showing it on my side. An echo because I'm showing it on my side. Well, Jeremy, this is I'm not sure what's going on here because I'm hearing a big echo on my side. I'm not sure what's going on
From
here
me or
because
from
I'm
you?
hearing a big echo on my side. From all of it.
From me or you have the stream silenced, that way it's not playing back through. You have the stream silenced, that way it's not, because if you're streaming and
There we
you're
go.
watching this,
That's
yeah.
that's what I needed to do. Okay, we'll get this figured out. All right, I've got it. Okay, good call. All right, so hello everybody. This is the other side of the die. This is our very first stream on Twitch. We're still getting some kinks worked out, obviously. So just want to beg your patience as Jeremy and I work through this. But want to welcome you to this first stream of the other side of the die, and this is going to be a channel that's really going to be based around how you can have less drama and more fun at your gaming table. I am one of your hosts. My name is Paul Postel.
And I'm Jeremy Kemberling.
All right, we will get this figured out, Jeremy. So, in this first episode, what we're going to talk about is going to be how to actually get into tabletop role-playing games. And what I'm going to be talking about is my advice is going to be geared around for people who are brand new to tabletop role-playing. And Jeremy, why don't you tell them what you're going to be talking about?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more about how to find a system and stuff like that that may fit your group a little bit better and ways to do that.
Okay, awesome. So, Jeremy, why don't we go ahead and just launch into my part first, and then we can just segue into yours. And then Yeah, let's just go for it.
Yep,
So,
fire away.
for my part, as far as getting into tabletop role playing games, this is something that Jeremy, I think you have said you've seen this many times on social media. How can I get into tabletop role playing games? And most of the time, the system that most people know is Dungeons and Dragons, which I play, you play. I think you've actually played more systems than I have. But my answer on this all the time with people who are new to tabletop role playing games and how to get into them is you're going to want to find a system that has a starter set. That is, I think, is the best way to get into tabletop role playing games. I actually have pulled up here some information on different systems. And the one, like I said, that most everybody is familiar with, and you and I are most familiar with, Jeremy, is Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And D&D has two different starter sets that are out right now. They're both $20. So one of the reasons why I think getting with a starter set is a way to go is because, it's a low-cost barrier entry into tabletop role-playing, especially D&D. So let's look at the D&D starter set, for example. So for $20, what do you get with the starter set? Well, this latest one that came out, that they just came out with a couple of months ago, you get a 48-page adventure booklet, with everything you need to get started. It's got a 32-page rule booklet with just the basic rules. It's got 5 ready-to-play characters. Each of them has a character sheet and your first set of starter dice. You get all that for $20. So,
And I know you really like the idea of somebody first time sitting down having that pre-generated character sheet uh,
yes.
is is pretty big.
Well, I mean, think about this, Jeremy. I mean, when you're getting into tabletop role playing you never played before, you and I have talked about this. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right?
A lot of times, getting new people into the hobby, I've actually barred. This is a lot more in the older Dungeons and Dragons editions. Is I would bar them from being spellcasters, and you could only be a martial class your first time through,
Hmm.
because trying to learn the rules plus how all the spells work, it was
Yep.
too difficult.
Yeah, and I've experienced that with new players, even giving them a pre-made character, because you're exactly right. You don't know what you don't know. Trying to understand all of these rules and what do these numbers mean, what do these stats mean, and then you're absolutely right. On top of that, with spells, trying to figure out how the spells work, that just adds another layer of complication. And especially, and think about this when you're playing a cleric, because I know I'm kind of getting deep into it now, but clerics get every single spell that they
Mhm.
have access to. So you've got this new player who's looking at this huge amount of spells, trying to figure out which one they should be choosing. So
Yeah,
it gets. Go ahead.
I was gonna say pre-generated for your first time, or if you're storyteller, game master, whoever it does have a lot of experience, it's still super helpful to limit the choices, just because, if you've had a ton of time to read the rule book, the new player hasn't, so you kind of got to favor to them and make it easier for them.
Yep. Absolutely. Agreed. Since this is our first stream, I'll be honest with you, full disclosure to our viewers. I was just texting my wife to make sure that audio is good, that they can hear everything. She says they can see us, but I just want to make sure audio is good. Now, Jeremy, you've got some more experience, I think, with more game systems than I do. What else have you played besides D&D?
So really getting into Pathfinder 2 right now, been
Mm-hmm.
reading that rule book quite a bit. Was reading the Star Wars, we were looking at playing that, but we kind of really getting into the Pathfinder 2 stuff, just really
Mm-hmm.
enjoying it. And then I have actually played every edition of Dungeons and Dragons,
Mm-hmm.
from the very first one to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It's probably one of my favorite editions of that. And then been playing Call of Cthulhu as well, which is a very different style versus the Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up Call of Cthulhu because I also looked up Chaosium, I think is how you pronounce the name of the company that makes Call of Cthulhu. So I looked up their website and to see what comes in their starter set. So their starter set is $25, so still a low cost barrier to get into the game. And I actually have this starter set, and I remember, and I think you got it for Christmas as well as I did, or you picked it up. But the Call of Cthulhu one comes with a basic rule set. I'm just looking at the website here. And what I think is really cool with the Call of Cthulhu is whoever's going to be running the game, it comes with this choose your own adventure type game, and it walks you through making the character. And then I don't know if you have, Jeremy. I tried playing that first entry, like choose your own adventure type.
I throw it out.
Do you?
I homebrew everything. I just kind of I always read the adventures and then I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I kind of understand it, and I toss it and come up with my own stuff.
Well, I tried playing through it twice, and I didn't beat it either time. I mean, and that is one thing about Call of Cthulhu. I mean, let's talk about the differences between D&D and Call of Cthulhu, right? Because
Yeah.
D&D is all about having heroic characters who have all these awesome abilities, and they're awesome at what they do. Call of
Yeah.
Cthulhu, completely different.
You are a normal person stuck in this fiendish world, basically.
Right.
So yeah, you get used to and there's a lot of systems where you are more of a heroic person that are supposed to be the hero, where in Call of Cthulhu, you're up a creek with no paddle.
Yep.
That's what I feel like Cthulhu is.
Absolutely.
But there's a freedom in it that you don't have in D&D, and I think it's a really unique and fun game.
Yeah, I have yet to run a game in Call of Cthulhu. I've got plans to run the first adventure that comes in the box. But just making the like I said, because with what comes in the starter set, it does walk you through making your first character, and and it's really designed for the person who's going to be running the game. And it
Mhm.
was really good about helping you make your first character. The rule set's completely different than D&D. It is completely different than D&D. The thing about Call of Cthulhu though was that playing through that adventure, in D&D you're used to you can get shot with like 8, 9, 10 arrows and your character can still live. Call of
Mhm.
Cthulhu, I mean, you get stabbed with a knife or you get shot with a gun. That's it. You're dead.
So
Yeah.
crazy enough, people in the original Dungeons and Dragons, and
Hmm.
this is kind of where video games stemmed from as well. So HP, people kind of think about it as hit points, like the
Yep.
amount of like hits you can take. But originally they were heroic points, right? It was your heroic ability to not die from being hit. And so if you had five HP, you could basically get hit five times without dying.
Right. Yeah.
And then yeah, but obviously video games and stuff like that, it became a much more mechanical type of thing.
Yep, absolutely. So, but also with the Call of Cthulhu, besides that, what we just talked about here, it comes with 3 adventures, which is pretty cool. And I did a cursory examination of all 3. The first one is the shortest one; it's pretty easy. The second one is a little longer in length, and the third one is pretty intricate, pretty complex. It comes with a set of dice. It comes with pre-made characters. It also comes with blank character sheets so people can make their own characters if they want. And then another one that I am interested in, and you are the one. Well, let's talk about this one first. Let's talk about Pathfinder because you said you were getting into Pathfinder. And
Yes,
so with
yes,
Pathfinder, there is a lot that comes with this beginner box. Now, it's double
yeah.
the price, $40, but you get a 80-page adventure. You get the basic rules to help the person to be running a game. You not only get I think there's pre-made characters with it. I can't remember. I think there's some pre-made characters, but there's also blank character sheets. But here's the cool thing: you also get this really cool. I haven't seen it, but I've heard people talk about it. This full-color double-sided map that doesn't come in the D&D starter set, and you also get these like punch-out pawns with stands that you
Hmm.
can use on the map while you're playing a game, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it's double the price, but you get a little bit more with it.
Yeah, and so right now they're actually doing a massive sale. I think it goes on for about a month. So you can actually get that beginner's box, the core rule book, uh, the first bestiary book, that pawn collection that you were talking about, a world guide to their Pathfinder's world,
Hmm.
and a one shot as well. You can get all that for $5, and they have two more tiers above that $25 gets you over $400 worth of books right now. So if you are interested in Pathfinder, it's a really good deal to jump on and look
Yeah.
into.
And I think you were telling me before we jumped on the stream here. I think you were telling me that for $25, you're getting over $400 worth of
Yeah, it's
content.
massive. It's like 30 some odd books that you're getting.
But
So
it
it's massive deal.
but it's also in PDF though, right? It's not
Yeah, it's
hardbound
only the
PDF.
PDF. So this is for a charity as well, which I really like. But I think it's kind of in response that all their hardcovers are sold out. So I think that they're doing the sale on the PDF
Mm-hmm.
to make sure people have access to the game system to try it out.
Yep, that's smart. That's actually really smart to do. So the last one I want to talk about before we get to your advice for existing groups trying to add a different TTRPG is the one you told me about, which in between last time we talked in the stream, I looked it up, and this actually sounds really cool. Blades in the Dark.
Yeah.
For $30, you get a hard copy book and you get the PDF. Blades in the Dark. I think this is really cool. Here's a description of it. Tabletop role playing game. It's about a crew of daring scoundrels seeking their fortunes on the haunted streets of an industrial fantasy city. So, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, the whole point with this game is you and the other players are trying to create your own, like, enterprise or thieves guild or something like that.
Yeah,
Is that right?
it's basically all about that intrigue story. It's more intrigue, more I mean if you like rogues, I think it would be a fantastic system for your group. But yeah, it's much more steered away from let's go kill a dragon and these massive mythical beasts and much more about the intrigue that may be happening inside of the city.
Gotcha. Okay. Now this one isn't really a starter set. But you get for the $30 you get the book, you get the rules on how to make characters, rules on how to build your crew, different mechanics for all that that comes with it. But I kind of feel like I'm stealing your thunder a little bit. So at this point, why don't we go ahead and go into your advice for groups that are already playing a TTRPG and they're looking to try something different. So what is your advice for an existing group wanting to try out something different?
Yeah, so I think one of the first things that is going to be really important is it's almost like a session zero. Like what do we want? Like what is your group wanting to play around? What is
Mm-hmm.
the core idea? There's so many systems out there that you're going to be able to find something that fits your group really well.
Yep.
And it's going to come down to talking it out. Do we want to have something that's really crunchy with a lot of numbers and mechanics? Do we want something that's stars with no dice? You have these games that use almost no dice and stuff like that. So there's what does your group really enjoy? Is it combat? Is it
Mm-hmm.
intrigue? We just talked about Blades in the Dark. If your group really likes intrigue, that could be something that you may lean into. And I think just looking through the systems, talking it out with your group.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about are going to revolve around the one main focus, which is how do we have more fun? And I want a system that my group is going to have fun with because I plan to spend a significant amount of time using it. So I want something that fits my group and our needs really well. And then the second thing that I think we'll both be talking about a whole lot on this channel is, talking it out with the group or
Right.
the storyteller. So I think that having an open communication and having fun be the pinnacle that you guys are trying to do is going to make the game dramatically more fun and way less uh, have drama.
Yeah.
So
So let's get an example in here, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball because you talked about your group earlier about wanting to try something different. You said you guys looked at the Star Wars RPG,
mhm.
but you ultimately decided not to go with that. I remember you and I talking, planning for the stream, that and I wasn't aware of this. You said there's like three different RPGs for Star
Yeah,
Wars.
there's three different versions of the Star Wars right now. They have their first edition, and then I believe TSR made their second one. So Wizards of the Coast made the second edition, and then
Okay.
their third one. The third one came out. That one's pretty crunchy and pretty big. We were looking at possibly playing the second one. And yeah, we were basically reading the rules on that and then reading the rules of Pathfinder and then just jumped in on Pathfinder and we're really enjoying it.
Okay, so what do you think with your group was the main determiner between deciding between Pathfinder and going with one of the Star Wars RPGs?
I think honestly, it was my comfort zone in two of my players know Star Wars way more than I do,
Okay,
and they wanted me to be the GM, the storyteller, the person telling the story. And I will still probably end up playing it at some point, but I think I would really want to read up and have a really well thought out campaign before I presented it to these people who know so much of the lore. So I
gotcha.
think that was the thing that kind of gave me a little bit of the pushback was just them having a stronger grasp on the lore than me.
Gotcha. Okay, so really it was Game Master Fiat that
Hmm.
made you pulled the trump card and said, guys, I know you really want to play this, but
Well,
yeah.
and yeah, so I've been playing the kind of jumping down the line, but
Mhm.
we're going to go into our background a little bit.
Yeah.
So I've been playing with my group, some of them for 20 years now. And so we originally started in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and as we've been exploring Pathfinder, it's a lot like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but like if Advanced Dungeons kept going down that route of mechanical heavy.
Right.
And so yeah, we really enjoyed that back in the day. So this has been a huge blast, honestly, just enjoying it.
I gotta tell you, I mean, that's one of the reasons that has kept me away from Pathfinder because it sounds like our groups are different.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like your group really likes the mechanics heavy, and I know with a lot of groups who like that is because they like all the different options and different ways they can
Mhm.
customize their characters. And for me, I don't like number crunchy systems. I like systems that are light and flexible, and we can go fast, but that comes at a cost, right?
Mhm.
Because the less mechanics there are in a game system, the less customization there is, I think for making, your characters. So I think for anybody for watching the stream or watching the recording, if you're looking for something, if you like fantasy, you like taking on dragons and mythical beasts, as you talked about earlier, I think you and I can both agree our advice would be if you want something that is really number crunchy and you want a lot of customization options, go with Pathfinder. You know,
Yeah, that'd be exactly what I would say.
Yeah, but then if you want something like me, who you want something really kind of quick, light, because like when I DM my games, I want combat to go really fast. I don't want to have to spend
Yeah.
a lot of time waiting for my players to figure up all their modifiers.
There
So go ahead.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say there's
Mhm.
actually styles that have been developing where I don't think roll dice at all. It's just all story development.
Yep.
And so the storyteller goes, "Yeah, you hit." And so uh, some groups I think are really going to enjoy that. And I mean, that's just kind of what it's all about is what is the group really going to enjoy?
Right.
And then I think if you have a group that you've been playing with a lot, experimenting could be fun. Run some one shots, know that you're going to fumble through it,
Yep.
and I want to stress that out. And especially when you first start out, don't think that you're going to be playing the game like Critical Role.
Yep.
Like that's not going to happen. You're going to fumble through, but at the end of the day, we're all playing the game for one reason, and that's to get together and have fun. So if you guys are having fun, even while you fumble through,
Yep.
then you succeeded.
Yeah, I mean, and to that point, to give you a quick example about that transcends not just tabletop role playing games, but that can transcend with everything. So, a quick side note my wife and I went and did an escape room yesterday, and it was her first time doing it, my third time doing an escape room. And, she was kind of worried about, well, what if, you get an hour to do it? She's like, what if we don't solve it? And I'm like, it's okay. It's about the experience. Are we having
Yeah.
fun? So it's the same thing with role playing games. I mean, we fumbled in this escape room. We
Oh yeah.
fumbled a lot. And, it's the same thing as when the first time you're running a tabletop role playing game. If you're the one running the game, you're going to fumble. You're going to make mistakes. Just be honest with your players. You're going to have to look stuff up. Your players are going to have to stop and look stuff up. The game's going to have to be on pause for a little, but you're going to get better as you go. So
Or the first time somebody really starts to lean in on the voice acting, and I think that's so fun. But yeah, like know that it's people are gonna laugh, it's gonna be fun, but it's also gonna be ridiculous.
yeah,
But that's part of the game. You
right.
lean into it, and with anything with voice acting, the more you do it, the better you get. But that's the same with any system that you're playing.
Yep, absolutely. So, since this is our first stream, Jeremy, why don't we go ahead and tell everybody kind of our credentials about,
Yeah.
how long we've been playing. And I feel like I've been talking a lot. So, why don't you go ahead and talk about how you initially got into TTRPGs, and then, I'll talk about my credentials.
Yeah, so I originally got into it. It would have been sixth grade. I was in the
Hmm.
Big Brother Big Sisters program, and my big came over, and my friends were over, and he's like, "Hey, make some characters. We're gonna play Dungeons and Dragons." And I was already kind of nerdy. I'd never played before, but it sounded amazing. So we ended up running it. It was a blast. We failed. We died, but it was a blast. And as he was leaving, he was like, "Hey, I'm just going to leave my books here." He was like, "We'll play it every now and then, but I'm just going to leave my books here," because he was in college at this time. Like he
Hmm.
wasn't playing it a whole bunch. So he left me the books, and then I started running it with my friends. Kind of on the weekends when he was still running an adventure for us, but I would just be making stuff all the time during the week. And then as I got into it, I started to make a world map, and I remember this because I still have it in one of my binders here. But it was a map where you had to stick pieces of paper next to each other, and it was like 144 pieces of paper would make the continent. It was just this
Wow.
massive map, and so we would put it out on my kitchen floor. And my mom, I feel like, hated it because anytime we played, if we started to lay that thing out, just the whole house was basically just this map. Uh, but yeah, for those of you who don't know, the all the maps that you see behind me as well as Paul and the background are actually some of my maps that I have done recently.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about that for a little bit because I don't mind, giving you a plug on this.
Yeah,
All the maps you guys see, like Jeremy said, these are all the maps he's made. And Jeremy, you're part of two. Um, well, not one is a Patreon with Beg,
yeah.
Borrow, and Steal. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
actually both Patreons.
Okay.
I free yeah, so basically I'm a freelancer, have contracts with both of them. So yeah, I work with Beg, Borrow, and Steal Productions, which is a team of four artists that make maps. We try to make really high end, high detail, beautiful to look at maps that are also have a lot of tactics that your group can use while they play. I try to add a bunch of elevation into all of my maps because I
Hmm.
really like to have elevation in combat. And then the other group I work with is CZRPG, and we actually have a Patreon as well as we sell everything through drive-through. We make basically a drop-in location. So once a month, you'll get a location that has adventure tie-ins. We have custom monsters, items, all kinds of stuff, and you can just drop them into your homebrew adventures and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll have links. I'll put links
Yep.
up on our profile on Twitch as well, so if people want to check those out. But I wanted to go ahead and talk about that because I just think it's crazy that in sixth grade you got started, with this hobby. I
Hmm.
mean, and look at you now. I mean, I'm looking right now at the map on the background, and it's called Winter in the Highlands. And this is one of your Beg, Bar, and Steel production maps.
Hmm.
And this is how I met Jeremy, that on a different YouTube channel, I actually interviewed Jeremy and the other three artists on Beg, Bar, and Steel Productions. And they showed their process and how they make the maps. I just think your hobby has now turned into something that you've turned professional at,
Yeah.
which, is great. So, I mean, for people watching the stream, they may start out and be new in this hobby, and look, one day they may grow up to be just like you, Jeremy.
Oh no. Oh. Uh, I mean,
No.
in kind of in longs with that, kind of what we've already said is as long as you guys are having fun, Like
Yep.
that's what really kept me in the hobby as well, is you gotta have fun while you do it.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, if you're having fun and you enjoy magical items, you enjoy making magical items,
Yep.
people will buy that. You gotta put in time and effort.
I mean, and there is nothing like getting around a table and having dice, or as we call it in this hobby, the clickety clackety math rocks,
Yeah.
and rolling dice, and it is just awesome. And you get so many inside jokes with your group, that
Oh yeah.
only you and your group will know, and you'll laugh about. And whenever you laugh about them, people are looking at you going, "I don't understand what's so funny." And it's like, well, you had to be there, you know.
Yeah, it
So,
I was gonna say I've been playing
mhm.
with some of my groups for a couple of my people for 20 years, and yeah, some of the stories that we could tell, and just you had to be there, and
Yeah.
we've played pretty regularly for those 20 years. So it's
Mm,
I do feel like that it you whenever you have that situation, you need to be really welcoming, and
mm,
I've probably gotten 15 to 20 people into the hobby, uh, just because anytime somebody asks, "Hey, can I play?" I always go ask my group, and then more often than not, they're always like, "Yeah, get them in here. Let's teach them. It'll be fun."
yep.
Uh, and it's definitely don't hold all of that over their head. I do feel like sometimes we haven't done the best at that, and then other times we've done really well. But yeah, you don't want to hold the almost like exclusiveness to yourself.
No, you don't. And there's enough gatekeepers in this hobby without adding
Hmm.
any more to it. And that's going to be a topic for a future, stream we're going to do is, if you're already in tabletop role playing, how do you teach new players to get in there?
Hmm.
What are some of the best methods? And so, we'll both share our methods for on how to teach new players. So, let me talk about how I got into
Yeah.
this because
How'd you get into it, Paul?
mine was a little bit different than yours. So I'm going to date myself. So way back in 1982, I think it was, I was in third grade. I'd always been into fantasy stuff, always been into castles and wizards and dragons. And I was at class one day in third grade, and I was just, drawing on a piece of notebook paper, just a map. I don't remember what it was. It was like some kind of dungeon, maybe a castle or a crypt or something. And one of my classmates asked what I was doing. And I told him what I was doing. And he said, "Let me show you a better way." And he pulls out a piece of graph paper. I'd never seen graph paper before. I mean, this is stuff you're supposed to use to make equations, to do equations. So he pulls out graph paper and he's showing me, because of the lines on the graph paper, you can have consistent uniform lines. He's showing me all the symbols. Jeremy in D&D, if you have a secret door, it's an S in the wall. It's a rectangle in the wall or a square for a door. The stairs are to show stairs going to a different level. It's just a lines, in between the walls. And then one that I don't really see a lot is the stairs that become a sliding trap. You would do the
Yeah.
little lines and then do the arrow. A statue was a circle with a star inside of it, so on and so forth. So he's showing me how to do all this, and I asked him, I said, "Where did you learn all this?" I just thought he came up with it, just made it up. He was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's from a game called Dungeons and Dragons," and he explained to me what it was. And you can imagine, I mean, third grader Paul, 9-year-old Paul was all about it. And so I went home. I asked him how I can get it. He told me about the Red Box basic starter set.
The
Went
Red
home.
Bucks.
Yeah, everybody remembers fondly, our age remembers the Red Box very fondly. And so asked my parents if I could get it, and they said yeah. They weren't, didn't partake of that whole satanic craze from the 80s, and they never did. And so
Yeah.
we went out to Toys R Us, we got it, and I remember opening that thing up, and that starter set was a lot like the Call of Cthulhu starter set. It actually walks
Mhm.
you through. It gave you a pre-made character already. I don't know if you did. You have that box set, Jeremy? Do you
Yeah.
remember it? You remember it?
I
Go ahead.
so again, I got my books kind of given to me, but I
Mhm.
did get that one later on down the road.
Yeah, so I remember that it had a fighter with it, and
Hmm.
then it walked you through was a choose your own adventure type thing. It showed you how to draw out the map as you were going. And I remember you were exploring some caves, you fought some goblins, you met this cleric, then you took damage from a battle, and then the cleric would heal you. And then I'll never forget. Ultimately, the bad guy in this choose your own adventure type adventure was a magic user. They called them magic users, not wizards at the time. named
Hmm.
Bargle. I'll never forget. His name was Bargle. And the drawing in there, the artwork was amazing. And from there, I just started running games from there. I had the basic set, I had the expert, I had the companion, I had the masters. Never used the companion or the masters, and I don't know what happened to them to this day. But I ran a ton of games, and then I got into in high school got into AD&D Second Edition because that was back when, like you talked about, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That was back when D&D was there was Dungeons and Dragons, and then there you go, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I've got that same box. That's kind of disappearing, but
Yeah.
there we go. Yep, I had that same book and the Dungeon Master's
Yeah.
Guide. But now it's just all D&D. There's no more
Yeah.
advanced, there's no more D&D. Now it's just all one. So, I think we've already talked about why this is such a great hobby to get into. I think anybody watching the stream can tell how passionate you and I are about this hobby. You make great memories. One of the things I'll say, and I think you can agree with this, Jeremy, is I like getting kids into this because it gets them off of this.
So something that like I myself have done is a lot of times you find the antisocial people. I felt it was always like almost my job or my duty to go try to help be friends, and something I noticed early, and then they've actually done research on it since then, is it really teaches people who don't get a lot of opportunities to go do social skills.
Yep.
I know that they've done some studies with people on the spectrum. It's helped them out a bunch on developing social skills.
Yep.
Uh, and so, yeah, like it's the silly game where people are having fun, but it's teaching you how to interact with people,
Yep.
and it actually can do a lot of growth. There's room for growth in people, and kind of like what you're saying, it gets them off of technology. Which I mean, my group is playing with technology while we play, and I think a lot of groups are doing that. But uh, it gets them interacting with people way more, and
Yep.
I think that we're seeing that a decline in that, and so it's fun to know that the hobby is growing. There's a lot of people getting into it, and
Yep.
it's a great hobby that teaches a lot of good stuff.
I mean, but your group is using technology because you guys have to. I mean, you guys have moved
Yeah.
away and spread all
Mm.
over. I'm sure if you guys were still living in the same location, you guys would
Yeah,
do pen
we
and
actually
paper.
this last year we all got together for the first time in a couple years and uh played at a table, and yeah, it was an absolute blast.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, besides getting kids off of screens, it teaches kids about math, because they're having to roll the dice and add or subtract modifiers to it. So it teaches them that. It teaches kids teamwork. It teaches them how to work together. It teaches them critical thinking, how to
Critical
approach,
thinking. Yeah.
absolutely, how to approach a problem and how to work as a team to overcome it. That's one of the things I like about it. I mean, you like video games too, right, Jeremy?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so do I. But the problem with video games is, who are you playing with?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so this just made me kind of think about it. I've been DMing for my 7 and 5 year old, and a lot of it's just been combat with some social interactions. But recently, I put a riddle in where they had to solve the riddle to continue, and they
Wow.
got to it, and they were both just like meh, because they were just wanting to do combat. But
Yep.
when they solved it, the joy that they had from solving this riddle was
Yep.
it was amazing.
I mean, and I think you bring up a good point here is not just does it teach kids critical thinking and how to work as a team, but when they overcome that obstacle, there is such a sense of accomplishment. Figuring out a puzzle, figuring out a riddle, there's such a sense of accomplishment that can come with this. Plus, it teaches kids to use their imagination
Hmm.
and to be storytellers.
Yeah,
So, all right. Well, Jeremy, that's actually all I had. How about yourself?
I think that's it for this one.
Yeah, so next time, on our next stream in a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about how to avoid misunderstandings at your gaming table. Jeremy, how many stories have you seen on social media about simple misunderstandings?
I mean, there's entire YouTube channels with massive foundations based off of it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
massive.
And I have read so many stories on Reddit, Facebook, on these groups I'm on, and I'm looking at these going, if I mean, we'll get into it in a couple of weeks, but it's just this if they had just taken the time to not react to their emotions and just taken the time to just really listen to one another, this all
Hmm.
could have been avoided. And we're going to talk next time about how you can avoid that.
You can
So,
hear how that's playing out at one of my own tables currently.
yeah,
But yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. And
absolutely.
yeah,
Okay. All right. We will see you guys next time. Thanks for joining. Have a good one.
bye.
Bye bye.